What's going on? What's happening? What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This your girl Tiffany. I'm here live in effect. So tonight, the topic I am going to talk about is something that deals with classism. Okay, the name of the topic is called Ghetto Bourgeoisie and Low Class Ghetto. All right. So what's the difference between those two? Is there a such thing? Now, of course, I came up with the term ghetto bourgeoisie and low class ghetto. However, the concept exists. Yes, the concept exists. Now, in a more technical term, the ghetto bourgeoisie would be petty bourgeoisie, and low class ghetto would be called lumpen proletariat. So, I'm gonna tell y'all about my experience. About a month ago, I went to an event, which was Revolt TV. It was my first time going, and it will be my last time going. That'll be my first and last. So I went to the Revolt event, and as I went in there, I went with a friend of mine. So they had a list of rules, what you can and cannot bring. And one of those things was the earbuds. So I like to carry my earbuds with me. They said, well, you can't bring the earbuds through there. I'm like, why not? What the earbuds gonna do? Right? So I go in there and I'm walking around, just browsing around. And the performances they had certain artists. I know they had Lady London and I can't remember who else. What's her name? Dochi? If that's her name, I don't remember her name. And then they had the events where Method Man was on Revolt TV. I didn't get a chance to see Young Miami and Lil Boosie interview. I didn't get a chance to see that. Then they had the one with Pinky Cole and her husband, and Toya, David Banner. Right. So I went into that little session. It was broken up in different stages. Okay. Now, the event itself was free. Like, if you want to go in there, it's free. But if you want to go to all other places, like get to the VIP and all day, it's $75, which is cool, whatever. But was not like your typical event. You know what I'm saying? They had rules like if you go in, although you wearing a wristband, if you go in, you can't. If you come out, you can't go back in. Like it was just the rules was very ridiculous. In certain areas, it was hot as hell. And I wasn't feeling the one with Pinky Cole and her husband. I wasn't feeling it because her husband said something that was crazy. He said something about the blue crabs, right? He said, people down here in the South don't really know how to eat blue crabs. I said, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, what the hell are you talking about? People down South don't know how to eat blue crabs. Like, nigga, you in Georgia. What the hell you mean that people don't know how to eat blue crabs? Hey, well, like, what the hell is you talking about, bro? You know what I'm saying? And the talking points was getting tired. It was a bunch of rhetoric. But my experience there, I've noticed something, and I peep a lot of things. I know there's two type of ghetto people. There's the ghetto bourgeoisies, and then there's the low class ghetto people. All right. So I'm going to get into the term of what the petty bourgeoisie mean. Let's start with the petty bourgeoisie. So let's go on here. Now, what is petty bourgeoisie? means small bougie, also ingelicalized as petty bourgeoisie, is a term that refers to a social class composed of semi-autonomous peasants and small-scale merchants. They are named as such because of their political, economic, ideological stance in times of stability is reflective of the proper haute bourgeoisie, which means high bourgeoisie or upper class. In regular times, the petty bourgeoisie seek to identify themselves with the haute bourgeoisie, whose bougie morality, conduct, and lifestyle they aspire and strive to imitate. All right. Again, this is the last part. In the time, the petty bourgeoisie seek to identify themselves with the haute bourgeoisie, whose bougie morality, conduct, and lifestyle they aspire and strive to imitate. So, in other words, the little small bourgeoisie class, right, wants to imitate and be like the upper bourgeoisie. Okay. Now, let's get into the lumpen proletariat. What is a lumpen proletariat? All right. So, a lumpen proletariat is the underclass devoid of class consciousness. Karl Marx and Frederick Engels coined the word in 1840 and used it to refer to the unthinking lower strata of society exploited by reactionary and counter-revolutionary forces, particularly in the context of Revolution of 1848. They dismissed the revolutionary potential of the lumpen proletariat and contrasted it with the proletariat. Okay, among other groups, criminals, vagabonds, and prostitutes are usually included in this category. Okay. All right. So these terminology came from Karl Marx, who brought about the inspiration of the communist, or what we know as the Communist Party, etc. All right. So he broke it down in between the bourgeoisie, the petty bourgeoisie, the lumpen proletariat, and the proletariats, right? Now, the ghetto bourgeoisie is very common with the petty bourgeoisie. Hey, my brother, how you doing there? Hey, Cuban Crisis, I'm gonna have to get you on the show one day. So reach out to me on my inbox because I really want to get you on the show because I really want to have a conversation with you, and you can tie into this very well. But reach out to me. All right. So the ghetto bourgeoisie, right, represents the petty bourgeoisie because what you notice, if you pay attention, especially if you ever come to Georgia, right? If you come to Atlanta, you will see the classism. You will see the type of ghetto peoples. The ghetto bourgeoisie wants to be like the upper class bourgeoisie folks, but they do not have the same social strata as those upper blue bourgeoisie individuals. They don't have the same type of power, but they try their best to imitate them, but they imitate them in their own way. This is where we get the concept of ghetto fabulous, because it's like the ghetto mixed with the vogue combining. Okay, so those ghetto bourgeoisie people, right, they see themselves as higher and way above those who are in the low ghetto class, which is the lump of proletariat, right? They see themselves way above them. You know what I'm saying? But they don't still recognize that they still a part of the low class community or the working class community. And they're not too far from them as well. However, they have this attitude that, hey, we rather hang around with our own kind of people. We rather deal with our own kind of people. We don't deal with them low class ghetto people over there because them low class ghetto people, they just low class. And the only time they want to deal with those type of people is when they want some work done, if you know what I mean. If they want to get their hands dirty or something, or if they want these people do them a favor. Sometimes or oftentimes they'll take advantage of those low class individuals because they feel like, hey, they low class, but they carry on the mentality of those who don't even respect them or even recognize them. Yes, sir. That's right. Emulating the upper class in hopes of being accepted and thinking they're superior and the rest inferior. There you go. Exactly. That's all it is. And then also, what people don't know, there is an elite black group, right? An elite black group, but they are like the little 1% of those who are upper class black people. They represent the 1% because it ain't too many black folks that's in the upper class community, right? But anyway, the petty bourgeoisie, they really want to be recognized by the bourgeoisie, the upper class individuals. That's what they want. They want that recognition. And they want to emulate their behaviors by mistreating those who they think is less than them, who they think that has no value. And then the lumpen proletariat, right? The lumpen proletariat, which is the low class ghetto folks, they feel like, well, what's the purpose of fighting? They don't feel like they have any hope in society because they are the lower class people. So these individuals tend to turn to the life of crime, right? Or do like taboo things or get involved with doing abnormal activity, all because they just don't feel like there's any hope for themselves and they don't feel like they will get any far in life. And they feel like everybody's against them. So the low class ghetto people feel like they have no representation. They feel like they're being used for counter revolutionary purpose. What is counter revolutionary? That means those who pretend or act as if they fight for a revolutionary cause when they really not doing it for a revolutionary cause. They're doing it for a profit purpose. Again, they're not doing it for a revolutionary cause. They're doing it to make profits. And so those low class ghettos, the lumpen proletariat, right? They feel defeated. They feel real defeated by society. And then I want to bring something up. I'm going to talk about ADOS. Okay? Because I did a video a while back about ADOS and their tickets. So they supposed to have a reparation summit coming up soon in New Orleans. And let me tell you why I say this is a slap to the face. Now, the founder, Yvette Carnell, she always talk about black people are poor in this country. We are in the richest country in the world. We don't have generational wealth. But check this out. This woman charged $300 for a ticket. $300 for general admission to go to the reparation summit. Yes. And then she also charged $400 for VIP. And she charged an extra $100 for children under the age of 18. Then she charged $50 if you want to see it live, if you want to see it on stream, right? And that's for one day. Now you going to a place like New Orleans, which they are dealing with, and they are still recovering from Hurricane Katrina 19 years ago. And then this woman put in the comment section when somebody asked her about it, she said that it costs $200,000 to rent out at the Hilton hotels. Out of all places, you decide to go to the Hilton hotels, right? But you're supposed to represent black people. Why you couldn't go to the HBCU out there? They have an HBCU in New Orleans. It's called Xavier University. Now, majority of those people in New Orleans are in poverty because many of them have been displaced from their homes. And here you are charging $300 for a damn ticket. Now, who you think she's gonna appeal to? I'm gonna tell you what she's going to appeal to. She's not gonna appeal to the low class ghetto people. She's finna appeal to those ghetto bourgeoisie individuals or the regular middle class black folks. That's who she gonna appeal to. And if you really want to know who's gonna be in attendance, those ghetto bourgeoisies, those goddamn middle class black people. That's who's going to attend to those events, not the low class ghetto individuals. Because the low class ghettos, they 9 times out of 10, they can't afford that. They can't afford to pay no $300 for no general admission, and then an additional $100 to bring their children, and then $400 for a VIP. What? Y'all help me understand. Since when, if you gonna have a reparation summit, why the fuck do you need a VIP? Why do you need a VIP? If you have a reparation summit, why do you need a VIP? Why do you need a VIP for? This ain't no concert. You talking about something that's being owed to black people, to African descended people here in America. What the hell you need a VIP for? You might as well go to the concert. Now, I compared the prices. The Essence Festival out there in New Orleans, guess how much the ticket costs? For Friday, it only cost $93. Okay? For a Saturday event, it was like $171. Watch this. And for Sunday event, it was $70. And for a 3-day pass, to go, this is for the concerts. Okay? For a 3-day pass, it only cost $691. This is at the Essence Festival, by the way. And it's free to the general public. It was free. Like, if you wanted to just attend to the events out there and you want to meet and greet, it was free. But if you wanted to go to the concerts, that's when you would have to pay. And if you want to go to all 3 concerts that was taking place, right, you would have to pay $691 for the 3-day event. Now, this is the Essence Festival. But here it is. This woman got a 3-day event going on, right? Let's see. If you charge $300 plus that $100, and then you got the VIP, that's $800. Then you got the live stream, that's $50. So that's $850 that you charge it in total. So I'm saying this to say that the Essence Festival was much cheaper than what this woman is charging. But I'm only using this as an example to show you that when there comes to certain events and certain activity, it's going to be more appealing to those who are in the ghetto bourgeoisie than it is to those in the low class ghetto. And I'm sorry, but Yvette Carnell might well be a person that's practicing classism. Because you can't sit here and talk about poor people this and poor people that, but you overcharging for some reparation summit when you could have went to a convention center, you could have went to a community center, you could have went to a university, or you could have went to a church. So what is it really about, a reparation summit, or is it about filling your pockets up? But that's either here or there. But just know that there is 2 kind of ghettos. There is 2 kind of ghettos. And it's sad within those 2 ghettos is the classism that is being practical. People don't believe me when I say, as much as I love Atlanta, because I grew up in the South, but people won't believe me if I say that there's classism. Until they see it for themselves, they'll be like, damn, it's really classism out here. There is classism. It's really sad. We hear about the Black Mecca, this, day, and other. Yeah, it is the Black Mecca, but who you think gonna get the better representation? Who you think is gonna get more support? The ones that's the ghetto bourgeoisies, not the low class ghetto people. This is why I tell people all the time: stop getting caught up with the Democrat and Republican Party, because ain't really now one of them. I mean, as far as the low class ghetto people concerned, right now one of them is gonna represent them. As far as the low class ghetto people's concerned, they're not going to be represented. So we get caught up on the Democratic Party is going to represent us. The Democratic Party represent the poor people. No, they don't. They don't represent the poor people. No, they don't. They're going to represent the people who got the money or who in the middle class and who's bougie as hell. That's who they going to represent. They ain't not going to represent the rest of the general population. They going to make sure these investors get their businesses, get some resources. They're going to make sure these business owners get some land or buy properties so they can put whatever they want to put in the areas. They're not going to represent the poor people. And we get caught up into these things. Yes, you're right. She is getting her reparation, overcharging people. And then what's so funny is she said that she's not pocketing the money. Then what the hell you going to do with it? You telling me you ain't finna pocket that money? You a damn lie. Yes, there are poverty. Capitalism's first component is economic classism, followed by race and sex. Capitalism cannot exist without racism and sexism. Bingo! Bingo! Bingo, 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 bingo. Bingo. You right, Cuban. Classism, followed by race and sex. Capitalism cannot exist without racism and sexism. That's a fact. That's a fact. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 only benefits the black middle class, whereas the working class blacks were still in poverty. Hence, the riots of Watts, excuse me, the riots of Watts and Newark and Detroit. Sadly speaking, sadly speaking, sadly speaking. But you know what? Let me say this. Well, a lot of people don't know is Dr. King had a campaign called the Poor People Campaign. Dr. King had the Poor People Campaign where he was really trying to bring focus to those in the lower class community, those who were living in poverty, those who were living in public housing projects, right? He really wanted to bring focus to that, but because due to his death, it never got an opportunity. It never got that opportunity to be exposed to the mainstream the way the March on Washington did. But you're right. And unfortunately, it's quite sad when you have middle class black people who try to emulate the very same people that have oppressed them. And they do it against those who they think are inferior to them and who are poor. So the question becomes, was it really about helping the black community altogether, or was it about helping a certain amount of individuals, or a certain fraction of the black community? So was it about helping the community altogether, or was it about helping the certain group of black people within those communities? What was it about? Who reaped the benefits? And then the black middle class ain't reaping as much benefit as they think. They're not really reaping that much benefit compared to their white counterparts. And this is one of the reasons why people do not go along with the concept of activism, revolutionary um ideology, because they feel like it's not going to bring a progress. They feel like people are using them. When I say they, I'm talking about the low class individual that's in the ghetto. They feel like they're being used and nothing is going to benefit them in return. So basically they're back at square one. And really nobody have a practical solution how to dismantle capitalism. That's a key thing. Nobody have a practical solution of how to dismantle capitalism. There's lack of pragmatism. There's idealism, but the pragmatism is not really there. So they have no way of really dismantling capitalism, because to dismantle it, that means that's going to take a lot of sacrifice, meaning that you have to be willing to put your life on the line. You will have to overthrow this system to get rid of capitalism. You have to overthrow the whole entire system. And if you can't overthrow this system, then you cannot get. Okay. All right. I'm sorry about that, you guys. Um All right, so I'm back, you guys. Sorry about that. But yes, getting back to what I was saying, my service kind of act up a little bit. But yeah, I was saying that mm, I forgot where I left off at. I forgot, to be honest with you. Yeah, my service was acting up, so I'm sorry about that. Shoot. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and continue. But let me read this comment. Somebody put race and sex is the justification of classism. Economic exploitation, specifically, example, the African Holocaust was about economic classism. Racism was the justification of slavery, business. Absolutely, it was. It was. But I know where I left off. I think I had left off on the part about the question of was it really about the empowerment of black people altogether, or was a certain group of black people was going to benefit from it? And then what happens is there are those of our people who have taken on the mentality of the very same people that have oppressed them and used it against their own. So at the end of the day, the question becomes, was it really about the liberation? What was the whole ultimate goal? Now, there are those of our people who really put up a fight and put up a struggle for this, but then there was those that needed to be questioned as far as what was the whole agenda. And I also mentioned where the black people in the ghettos, the poor blacks, rather the very poor blacks, they don't feel like there's going to be any changes taking place in society because they feel like they're being used and taken advantage of, and they're not reaping a benefit from it. They're not getting anything in return. So this is why the whole concept of revolution does not always work. And also, to overthrow capitalism means that you have to be at risk. I'm just going back to what I was saying because I had lost a train of thought. So forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But yeah, the whole concept of revolution means to bring about radical change. And if you're trying to get rid of capitalism, you have to bring radical changes. If not, then it's just only idealism. There's a lack of pragmatism taking place. So all you have is a bunch of idealism and romanticism, but there is no pragmatism. So when there is no pragmatism, then it brings about, then you have a problem here. Then you have a situation. You're stuck at square one. And also, the low class black people, they not stupid. They're not dumb. They know what's really going on. They know who is really down for the cause and who really care about the people. And they know who are running games and taking advantage or preying on people's weakness. And then going back to the part where I mentioned about the Democratic Party, we can't get caught up on that, because again, they too prey on poor blacks. So we got to be careful with that. But I think a lot of people are very oblivious about this and don't really want to have this conversation. A lot of people are very oblivious. And then you have people that want to feed into illusion that racism don't exist or racism is done away. I don't know what type of world you living in. Just because it's not practiced the way that our ancestor had dealt with it does not mean that it don't exist. Just my personal opinion. I think capitalism in the U.S. government will implode, and that will be its fall. You know what, brother? I'm hey, brother Malik, brother Cuban, if you want to, I put the link on there because I would like for you to come on here and expound more on this. I'm a so if you want to come on here, there's the link for you. So, or brother Dejan, if you want to come on here, just hit the link at the bottom, so that way you guys can give y'all points of views and whatnot, because I think what y'all saying is very great, and y'all putting out a lot of information that people need to know about. So while I'm waiting to see their response, yeah, it's like we really don't want to have this conversation. We really don't want to point out the obvious, because we have this illusion. Because we have this illusion, we want to believe that everybody is unified. Now, I'm for Black empowerment. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for that. But I have to come in terms and be honest about the things that I'm seeing and noticing. You know what I'm saying? So it took me a while to actually notice the pattern, notice the problem. It took me a while to actually point it out. People don't think that we should look at the internal issues that's taking place in our environment. We have to look at those internal issues as well. We can't just focus on the external and think that it's just the external thing, which we know that it has a greater influence on what's going on with us, but we also have to look at the internal problem and address those problems. The US is $34.4 trillion in debt, too much consuming and too much exploiting and and greed and ego, not a good mix. Okay. Come on, brother John. Hold on. Let me see. Let me see. Do I got you? Child, hold on. I'm trying to get you on here. Hold on, child. Okay. Here you go.
Hey,
What's up,
what's
brother?
going on? Hey, what's going on, sis? How you
I can't.
doing? Can you hear me?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you now. Yeah.
yeah. I just want to touch base on what you was talking about because I'm reading France Fanon's "Wretched of the Earth," and
Mhm.
he was basically talking about how the national bourgeoisie is basically they only bourgeoisie in spirit only. They're not even really bourgeoisie as far as the economic resources are concerned. So when you talk about ghetto bourgeoisie, they basically just trying to emulate the actual bourgeoisie, which is the white elite. But they don't have the resource, nor do they have the political power to even be a bourgeoisie. So for them to try to look down on other black folks is completely absurd.
It is. It really is, and it's really sad because it's almost like pretty much your net to net almost. You know what I'm saying? You
Hmm.
like one or two paycheck away from being where the low class ghetto Black people are at. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. And it's like they
And
try. It's like they try to look down on the lower class black people and trying to, and they always talking about accountability too. And I mean, yes, people have to have accountability, but in the way they look at accountability, they look at it as means to try to pathologize and try to look down on black folks and put themselves on the pedestal as if they're perfect.
right, and they're not. They're not. And it makes you question. Well, what's the purpose of really trying to fight against oppression if the very same people that's supposed to represent the collective is acting like the oppressors or trying to emulate the oppressor?
Absolutely. And I wanted to read something what France Fanon said on page 98 in Wretched Earth, which I thought it ties into this conversation. I'm gonna
Mhm.
start off. It says the national bourgeoisie, which takes over power at the end of the colonial regime, is an underdeveloped bourgeoisie. Its economic clout is practically zero, and in any case, no way commensurate with that of its metropolitan counterpart, which it intends replacing. In its willful narcissism, the national bourgeoisie has lowered itself into thinking that it could supplant the metropolitan bourgeoisie to its own advantage. But independence, which literally forces it back against the wall, triggers catastrophic reactions and obliges it to send out distress signals in the direction of the former metropolis. The business elite and university graduates who make up the most educated category of the new nation are identified by their small numbers, their concentration in the capital, and their occupation as traders, landowners, and professionals. This national bourgeoisie possesses neither industrialists nor financiers. The national bourgeoisie in an undeveloped country is not geared to production, invention, creation, or work. All its energy is channeled into intermediary activities. The national bourgeoisie has the psychology of a businessman, not that of a captain of industry. And it should go without saying that the rapacity of the colonists and the embargo system installed by colonialism hardly left it any choice. So basically, what he's saying that we don't even have the like I said, the economic or the political resources to even be a bourgeoisie. But those they just have like those of the professional class. And even E. Franklin Fraser, he talks about that in his book, The Black Bourgeoisie, how them they just try to model and emulate the white elite. But they don't have neither the skills, neither do they have the resources of the elite to even be an actual genuine elite.
Mm, that's deep. And that's the fact. You don't. You know what I'm saying? We don't have the social power. We don't have economic power, or nor do we really have political power. And we want to be technical. We don't. You know what I'm saying? We really don't have that. We don't have that type of structure established in our community. So what we have is a bunch of individualism, a bunch of
Absolutely.
discombobulation. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and so with that being the case, it's hard to hold on. Okay, brother Cuban in here. Let me add him to the stage. Yeah. So, it's very hard to even try to like I mean, there's no way you can actually be like the rest of them, because the rest of them, they gonna look at you and they just gonna pretty much laugh at you. The people that you trying to emulate, they gonna laugh at you like, look at these individuals, what the hell they doing over here? What they got going on? You know what I'm saying? You become a laughing stock. Yeah. Hey, brother Cuban, what's up?
Peace. How y'all doing?
Peace. How you doing?
Brother,
I'm
how
Good.
you
doing
doing?
fine.
Yeah.
You got anything you want to say? Because you've been saying a lot in the chat. You get on this stuff heavily. So I want to hear your point of view.
Word.
Um, it, like, what exactly is the question?
Well, on this whole subject about, we was talking about the petty bourgeoisies and the lumpen proletarian, the ghetto bourgeoisie and the low class ghetto people. You know what I'm saying? I seen that, you putting a lot in the chat. Maybe you can expound more on it because you are very thorough on this subject when it comes to dealing with politics and economic in particular.
I think that when you have any group of people that has succumbed to colonization, imperialization, slavery, oppression, depression, repression, any of that, you're always gonna have and there's a lot of things in history you look at where you see different groups of people where it's kind of like if you can't beat them, join them,
Right.
and they, they succumb to indoctrination, and they believe these bizarre ideologies, like these political ideologies, and way of thinking, and they emulate it. The in this country, and even in Cuba, you had the brown paper bag test.
For real, in Cuba, they had the brown paper bag test in Cuba.
Absolutely. So
What?
you
Oh,
have
you guys found on that.
so it was the same thing. It was, they had the saying in Cuba. They have a saying in Cuba: the black grandmother in the closet. So black people um, are at the bottom of the social totem pole. So that would be like in the Lacoste system. So this is where this word, you get negro. In English, you get negro.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a thing of, this social construct of making one feel inferior because they're a negro, or whatever words they come up with: mulatto, octoroon, quadroon, indio, chino, matizo, mulatto. All that shit is a thing of, it's a race thing to divide, but it's also a thing of class. Because even in the Lacoste system, when you look at the paintings of the Lacoste system, you'll see one image, you'll see an African that's dressed fine, and you'll see another one where they're not dressed as eloquent, or they may have all in the pictures, the men, the women, the children, they may be holding things in their hands, they may have baskets on their heads. Um, all of that is a sign of class, where
Mm,
they were in society. So
mm,
um, the things I see here is very much identical to what you see in other parts of the world.
mm.
Like it's the same game. It's the same game, different players, different names, uh, different places, different times, but it's the same identical thing.
Mm,
The situations might be a little different, things might be a little harsh here, things weren't as harsh as in this situation, but it's the same shit. So
well,
it's like, like you look at, people talk about, oh, the Cubans, let's just say, I'll pick on Cubans. The Cubans that support Trump. Well, why do you think they're supporting Trump? Because it's a thing of economics. It's a thing of class. It's a thing that they want to be, in a position in society where they are of the haves and not of the have-nots. They want to fit in.
mm,
They want to conform. And it's the
mm-hmm,
same thing in the black community. It's conforming. It's it's interesting you're having the conversation, because this is a conversation I've been hearing for well over a year personally with different people.
mm-hmm.
And um, there's there's arguments that are made, in regards to, let's just say, people that are pro-black, or people that want to be, that people that subscribe to Pan-Africanism, or people that subscribe to RBG. And then there's the flip of individuals that disagree with people that want to subscribe to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are arguments on both sides that are valid. There's certain things. There's certain but at the end of the day, I just look at it like I don't vote. I voted once in my life, and that was when Obama first ran. And I voted because I wanted to prove to myself that because you have a black man in office does not mean anything pivotal is going to change, um, on such high level in this country. And nothing did change on a high level in this country because you had a black person in office. It doesn't matter who you have in office. They're the face to the company. They are the Ronald McDonald. They are the Wendy from Wendy's. They are just the image. They are the sell to the people. They're the spokesman, I guess you could say. But they're not the ones that have the power that's pulling the strings. So it's like, it's I look at it like, if I was a black American, there's no way in hell that I would partake and believe in the system. That doesn't even, that doesn't, to me, I look at it like saying that if you've seen your mother being raped for 43 years and all of a sudden there's some type of transformation, if you will, the rapist is getting therapy, right? The rapist is still a fucked up person, kind of, but they're not doing as much as they used to do. I'm not going to sit at the dinner table and eat dinner with you. I'm not going to invite you in my house. I'm not going to want to be your friend. I'm not going to want to, like, I look at the same. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's very much a, what's the thing? Um, the syndrome, Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Stockholm. It just doesn't. It for me. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, if people want to go vote and knock yourself out, but in 4 years after this, it's going to be the same shit again.
And
And
that's
after
how
that,
I feel.
shit again.
And that's how I feel about Kamala Harris. I mean, people like, oh, she's going to be the first black or half black woman that's in office to become president, this, that, and other. But I feel like, okay, well, that sounds good. That sounds nice. I mean, there's nothing wrong with women representing, you know what I'm saying, on a higher level, but it's not going to change much. It's really not going to change much.
I
And
mean,
then if we look at her track record,
we've had black faces in high spaces for years, and what progress has the black community made as a collective? I mean, we have Clarence Thomas. I mean, we've had
Marion
who else?
Barry,
Yeah, Marion Barry. I mean, he did do some great things for DC. I'm not gonna front on his end, but
right? Uh,
we've had other politicians. Colin Powell, he was a war criminal. I mean, we've had
right,
other politicians of the black community that really haven't done shit for us. I mean, but basically they were just basically the black face of white supremacy.
right,
I mean, so I mean, just because you have a black face in the office doesn't mean they're gonna do anything that's conducive to the progress of the black community. I mean, but it has to come back on the people too. The people gotta make demands of their politicians. They actually want them to accomplish something. You gotta get organized first and have a set up a voting block if you're gonna take that voting approach, as opposed to just going there just because they a black person or just because they a Democrat and just go vote for them, because the Democratic Party since its inception has been extremely racist against the black community.
absolutely. See, and that's the part that people fail to understand. They don't even know that history. If we go back to the history, how the Democratic was, whew, I don't think many black people want to jump on that bandwagon because let's see, Andrew Jackson, when he was the one that was a Democrat, right? But he opposed abolition movements, right? He opposed the fight against to end slavery. Okay. And then what other people don't know is the Ku Klux Klans were
Were founded by
Democrats.
absolutely.
They were Christians, but they were Democrats. And so it's like if people really know the history, the dark history behind Democratic Party, I don't think they want to jump on the bandwagon. But see, the problem is we refuse as a community to start our own political party that would, benefit us. Start, have a grassroots to bring about representation, build a political party. So we'll be considered as independent, of course, but at least we have something that will represent, the so-called minorities, right? But we don't want to do that. We don't want to organize on that level. We want to get on either the Republican side or the Democrat side. And at the end of the day, neither one of those parties are really serving the benefit.
Yeah, absolutely not. And then, I mean, even Lyndon Baines Johnson, when they blacks majority switched over to the Democratic Party in 1964 with the Civil Rights Act. But people got to keep
Mhm.
in mind that Lyndon Baines Johnson was a complete racist, and he completely ignored the Kerner Commission report, which I actually have right here, a copy of it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
The Kerner Commission report. which basically stated that racism is basically called like white racism condone, maintains, and it will created, maintain, and condone um the conditions of the ghetto, which was created by racism. And this is mostly white folks that said this. The Kerner Commission was put together by Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1967. There was 11 members, 9 of them which were white. Only a couple of them were black, and they came up with they formulated and came up with a commission because there were a lot of riots that were going on in the inner cities, and they wanted to come up with a solution to the problem. But Lyndon Baines Johnson, he had militarized the police with the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration. And what that did is provide a lot of block grants to local law enforcement and gave them a lot of military equipment to basically go against those that were rioting in the major cities. So the Democratic Party, even doing after the Civil Rights Act, they wasn't doing anything to alleviate and ameliorate the issues that were going on in the black community. They basically just ignored the problems, and then in 1970 with the benign neglect memo that Monahan, I'm pretty sure you know the Monahan
Yeah, about
report.
the Monahan report. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the same guy basically wrote a memo to NITS and basically just ignoring black people's problems, and then basically focusing on other ethnicities to solve their problems. And that's the reason why they ignore black people's problems to this day.
Because of the Monahan report?
Because of the memo, the benign neglect memo that he gave to the NITS in 1970.
Mm. That's
See,
deep.
that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why, I mean, everything is political. Like 8th Rap Brown told us, everything is political. I mean,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
everything,
it's gonna
like,
always be politics.
there's always politics and everything. And people not really read up on these situations. Like, they just basically they vote Democrat all because they parents or their grandparents told them to do so. I mean, without doing any type of thorough research on the Democratic Party and its racism, its past racism.
Right. And now what do you think of this coming? This person put the Democrats are bougie socialists.
Mm, bourgeoisie socialists. I mean, well, they
Mhm.
they try to pretend as if they socialists and they doing things for the people, but in actuality, they just doing things. They basically just the same, like almost like the Republicans. The only difference, one of them is conservative, one of them is liberal. They're not really doing making much of a difference.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I mean, you know, we really have to we have to pull back the layers on things that we fighting for, that we advocate for. We have to pull back the layers and really see what's behind or what's the whole purpose. Someone told me this a long time ago. You follow the green, follow the money.
Absolutely.
So when you follow the money, right, that tells you a lot about the person. Just like when I brought up about Yvette Carnell and this whole thing that she's supposed to be having with this reparation summit, right? But the ticket pricing is very high. And here you are, you going to a city where these people are still trying to recover from a natural disaster that took place they had no control over. And you charge them all this money just to talk about reparation.
I
You
mean,
know?
yeah, that right there. I mean, I fell out with Yvette Carnell and Tone a long time ago. They just basically like you stated earlier, they's part of the bourgeoisie too. I just feel as though they both are poverty pimps trying to take advantage of the people, but trying to act as if they're socialists at the same time. Like sh- she every week on their podcast, they're talking about black people don't have any money and we virtually have little to no wealth, but you sitting there charging like these exorbitant prices that the average black person really can't afford. So you really only doing it like just to put money in your pocket yourself. They're not really being allocated and distributed back to the community.
Right. And then so with that situation, it made me wonder that that's what brought about the red flag. Because if you say you're really advocating for Black Americans, for the sake of that term, and I don't like using it, but I'm just gonna use it for that for this conversation, right?
Mm.
You say you advocating for Black Americans, right? But you playing in the face of Black Americans at the same time. How is you
Precisely.
advocating?
I
How?
mean,
What
she's
I
not
mean,
really advocating. It's not really advocating for us. I just feel as though she, like I said, advocating for your own pockets. And I mean, they're new, and then to say that Pan African groups are not about reparations. I mean, they're very xenophobic when it comes to Pan Africans, and Pan Africans have been behind the reparation struggle for many years, way before Yvette Carnell even came on the scene. I mean, for you to
right.
be very xenophobic against Africans, I mean, and trying to always bring up the whole Africans sold other Africans into slavery. I mean, which there's a lot of context behind it that she's really or possibly deliberately missing out on. But yeah, but back to the ghetto bourgeoisie, I just feel as though like they only bourgeoisie in spirit. No, they're not really bourgeoisie as far as actually having the resources to actually be a real bourgeoisie. They basically just modeling themselves after the white elite and basically trying to be something that they're really not.
Mm. Right, exactly. Exactly. I mean, and it just look like I say it looks crazy. It looks crazy on their part because it's almost like you begging, you know what I'm saying? This comes back to the politics of respectability.
Hmm.
Yeah, it goes back to the concept about politics of respectability here. Well, I'm gonna do any and everything I can just to be recognized, just so I can earn the respect, even if that means to like turn on or turn against my own people who are really struggling at the bottom. I would do that.
And then
It's given. Go
And
ahead.
then and then like Dr. Amos Wilson said, he basically saying like he called out these black conservatives. He said like, what are you really trying to conserve? I mean, because you don't have any power in America. You really only conserving the power that the white power structure has, and you basically making justifications for the political, social, and economic exploitation of a people, basically that have
Mm-hmm.
some type of moral standard that they've created. I mean, but you're not really conserving any type of power or any type of resources. I mean, you basically is a white conservative in blackface.
That's it. That's it exactly. Exactly. And yeah, I want to ask Cuban something. So here's my thing.
Mm.
Cuba is supposed to have been a communist society, right? If it was a communist society, well, then the question one may ask is why there was so much classism if it was supposed to be based on communism.
Well, it's a oh, how can I say this? It is socialist, but it's communist in the sense of their constitution. I forget how it's worded. Um, but so prior to Fidel taking over, Batista was a dictator. Batista at one time was siding with the United States, and then he got a little big for his britches because he got that elitist mentality, or he had got that elitist mentality. And then prior to him, you know, at a point, the United States was um, the colonizer. It was a colony of the United States with the Spanish, with the war between Spain and America. And Spain gave up its colonies of Puerto Rico, Guam, Philippines, and Cuba to the United States. So you got to think that even so, when Fidel comes into power, that the indoctrination of the mentality of being colonized was still in the hearts and minds of people, and it's still there. It's like colonization is it's like if right now if America was no longer a capitalist country, right? Let's just say it ended and blah blah blah. Like the indoctrination of this country on the people, it's not gonna go away overnight. It's not gonna go. I wouldn't be shocked. It's not gonna go away in a very long time.
Mm.
People are conditioned. You know, I mean, look around the world. Um, so many places that became independent,
Mm-hmm.
and yet you see people in power that are either they are puppets of America. They are puppets of England. They're puppets of France. They are puppets of Israel. They're puppets of Saudi Arabia. You know, they're puppets of different countries, and they don't care about their people. They're just there to have their false power and and become rich.
Yeah, and that's
And
Mm.
including Africa too. They got puppets over there too, and
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
they
Oh
doing
yeah,
yeah.
they doing
it's
the
it's
bid of the Western powers.
yeah. So it's just everywhere. So I mean, it's not like it's gonna go out the window. I mean, Haiti. When you talk Toussaint, you know he became the president of Haiti. He did a lot of great things. He liberated Ecuador. He liberated Venezuela. He liberated Peru. He liberated Haiti. You know he was he was Haiti was the model for any oppressed people globally. And so, you know, like the United States and other colonizers, they didn't, you know, United States feared that Cuba would be another Haiti. You know, other places feared that this place would be another Haiti, right? So he does what he does. The country's free, right? And
Uh-huh.
look at the issues that they still face
They
internally.
still owe France money to this day.
This, you know, well, I'm just saying as far as the treatment even of Haitians towards other Haitians. Not even talking about
Yeah.
Haitians towards Dominicans or Dominicans toward Haitians, but even there's still the caste system. There's still a La caste system. They have mulatto, they have negro, they have blanco, they have indio, they have mestizo.
Uh-huh.
They still have they have octoroon and quadroon. They have those names and those things that divide people.
Uh-huh.
Um, I mean, even the even if you look at the word Creole, what African would call themselves Creole? What indigenous people would call themselves Creole? Who came up with Creole? So like Creole takes different meaning in some places. Like Cuba, Criollo means a man and a woman that were born in Africa that came to Cuba, had a child, and that child, whose parents are West Central African, that child is a Criollo. That is a Creole. That's what that means there. But Creole might mean something different. You know, Creole might take the form of like say mulatto or something like that.
Uh-huh. Mm. Well, I mean, as far as like Creole is concerned, right? We will be considered as Creole people, as far as African descendant people, because of the fact that we not only have like predominantly African genes, but we also have like other admixtures taking place. We have we have some European admixtures. We also carry some
Yeah,
of us carry some
my
Native
fault. I
American.
got kicked out.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I was saying that, here in the Western, black people, we will be considered as Creole, right? In a way, meaning that because of the fact that we are predominantly African descent, we also have some admixture. So we carry some admixture of the European descent. We carry a little bit admixture of Asian descent for those other, and some of us carry some Indian descent. You know what I'm saying? But we are predominantly African. You know what I mean? And then even within the African, right, we are mixed with West and Central Africa. You know what I mean? We are composed of different ethnic groups, you know, like different ethnic groups that came from various parts of West and Central Africa. Cuban, you there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Speaking of, I was reading some interesting today in this book called "Peculiar Institution," antebellum slavery in the South, and it was talking about how the slave, the child of a free of a enslaved black man and a free a white woman, they actually had freedom, whereas the child of a black enslaved woman and a white man was actually considered a slave.
See,
So
that concept is called parsequentervention.
yeah, I was reading.
Parsequentervention, it was an actual, yeah, it was an actual law that stated that whatever the status of the woman is
Other
the status of the child.
Yeah, and so basically the mulatto class basically had sometimes they could be enslaved but there was a scarcity of black men that actually had white women. So basically the mulattoes were basically mostly slaves for the most part. I mean you had instances on where the slaves were actually where the black men actually had white women, but a lot of that was actually some of them were coerced into messing with white women, or they be threatened to tell the slave owner on them, and then they would actually get either hung or beat or put killed. I just thought that was very interesting, and yeah, there was still classism on the plantation too between the house Negro and the field Negro, like Malcolm X had told us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but they actually had status on the plantation. Some of them were actually used to like to beat other slaves and in submission for the slave owner. So the classism has been going on since the plantation with black people. It just had basically some of us still want to you got those at ghetto bourgeoisie that basically want to had a whip in their hand too. They basically wanted a crack at master's whip, but they know they would never obtain the power of the slave owner themselves.
Yeah. I mean, and then, this is where it comes down to affecting the relationship between men and women.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It kind of it pretty much boils down to it because the woman, she's going to be looking for somebody that has the highest standard, right? That has the income, and she's going to go for that, right? She's going to look because she's looking for someone to provide for her financially. Whereas the man, he's going to look for somebody who has a beauty standard that's almost equivalent to someone that's European descent.
So let me ask you. So do you think that that could be bi-directional and go both ways, where the woman is looking for the status of a man who basically has this similar status to that of the European, um, as far as like money and prestige and so forth. Do you think that's a that's been psychologically ingrained into them from slavery?
Yeah, yeah, yes. And I mean, and media plays a major role in that because you know media have taught us that, well, if you gotta look for a man that has this particular status, right? Or well, media have shown us that we gotta have a man that got the money, got the cars, got the popularity, got the power, etc. That's what media have shown women, and women try to go for that, and they end up getting played. So get taken advantage of. And then media also shown that, well, as a man, if you want to get If you want to be powerful, you want to feel like you somebody, you need to get one of these beautiful, sexy women out here, or get multiple women so you can be able to have that representation and feel like you on top of the world, like feel like you the boss, feel like you the man. But it doesn't really do any good because it's like, okay, you can have all these women, but but you run into problems with them. So what good is it gonna really do for you as a man? So what I'm saying is, society and media plays that role of influencing how we think and how we view ourselves and our environment.
Yeah, and and hypersexuality actually plays a part in that too. You know that they had. I know you read about the slave breeding farms that they had, where they actually put black men and black women like on slave breeding farms for the purpose of creating more slaves for the slave owner to have. And I just feel as though, with the whole, I don't like to say baby mama, baby daddy drama and all that, but I like to say women that have like children by multiple men, and then men that have children by multiple women. We gotta look at the origin of where that actually emanates from. But I mean, because like they had a stereotype out there, the black men were hypersexual, and basically saying that we were basically animalistic out there, and that our main purpose were to just create more children. And we think that our sexual prowess actually defines manhood for us.
Uh-huh.
That a womanhood is based on her um her shaking her ass, or her like displaying her sexuality, her hypersexuality too. And certain women out there actually look at that as actually sexual liberation, but they not actually understanding the origins of where that stem from. Just like the man is not understanding the origins of him having children by multiple women, where that actually stems from.
Right, right. I mean, oh, I can go into topics and talking about feminism, but that would be a whole nother
Yeah,
subject in itself. That'll be a whole nother subject in itself. But yeah, and what I know is, as far as this bourgeoisie and lower class separatism,
mm,
the behavior,
yeah,
you can find it very common amongst women, because the women that's in the ghetto bourgeoisie, they really think they got it bad. They really think they got it going on. Like yes, I'm that sis. Like yes, bitch. I'm all that bitch. Yes, I'm slang. Yes, you see that period, all of that, right? And then she looking down on this woman over here and like, yeah, you a broke bitch. You broke as hell. You fucked up. And then, well, is especially when it comes to corporate America, and you got these women that's in a high position of power, right? Whether they become managers or like CEOs or whatever, right? They really start to really feel themselves. They really get beside themselves to the point that when they encounter a female who's just a general worker, right? Her attitude towards her is like, she'll try to find a way to diminish her, you know, and try to like put her down, but she does it in a classy, professional manner. And she try to look at her like okay, like it, and now it's a competition. You trying to get where I'm at, you trying to take my spot, basically. So she'll start being disrespectful or saying some condescending things to her, or try to make her job a little bit harder because she has some type of envy or jealousy, and she feels some kind of way, and it just it baffles me because I've seen it personally. I've seen it done. I have seen it happen. Like people, our people, they get into the position of being managers, and they start to really feel themselves a little too much.
Yeah, they do. And then I mean, when you're not used to having power in America, when you're used to being oppressed for over 400 years, when you get any type of position where any position of authority or any position of power, you tend to start becoming like you really start feeling yourself and really start becoming really pompous and arrogant in your position. But my thing is like you don't really have no power like the like whites that actually run this country, that actually runs the entire world actually. So you tend to try to emulate them because that's really who you want to be inside. I mean that goes for the black man too that get in the position of authority. You have those that tend to look down on lower class black men that get into them type of positions.
Woo! That part. That part. Yes, that part. That part
I mean,
right there. That that.
so you gotta like people don't really have an understanding of class consciousness and they tend to think that I mean being race first. I mean I'm for being race first like Marcus Garvey, but you gotta
Mhm.
have some type of class consciousness. You gotta have some type of understanding of class. Or else you're gonna end up trying to replace your white supremacists and end up becoming a white supremacist and blackface yourself.
That part. The class consciousness. So, how important is it to really understand that? Like, why is it so important to actually study class consciousness very carefully? Either one of y'all can answer.
Yeah, you want
Q.
to tap in, brother? You can go ahead and
Um, well, because when you talk about um, the creation of the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at England. You look at everywhere in South Central America, the Caribbean. You look at um, Africa, right? In regards to the African Holocaust. When you look at particular nations that were colonizing from the Portuguese coming into Africa, and then this is where this is where Africans were called Negro. This is where they were called black. They weren't calling themselves Negro. They were identifying by their ethnic group, their tribes. You know what I mean? Like, and this is pretty global everywhere. Like, you know, the Taino and the Mayan and the Inca and the Aztec, they weren't calling themselves the Red Man. They weren't calling themselves any of those names, right? So when these colonizers come and just dealing with the aspect of this, you know, from the 14th century to now, everything was about economic classism. Slavery was based on economic classism. The Inquisitions was based on economic classism. To the Africans that were sold into slavery and sent to England, that was economic classism. Everything after what's going on in Palestine, you know, a lot of people say, oh, it's about religion. It's really about politics because
Mm-hmm.
it's first of all the religious thing. Everybody that's a Muslim or a Christian or a Jew doesn't even see eye to eye things theologically, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you have, for God's sakes, you have Semitic people that are atheists. Just because they're Arab doesn't mean that they subscribe to the Abrahamic faiths, you know.
Fact.
So you have a mixture going on, but it's politics. The Just looking at Palestine, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is it they want? They want the land. The Zionists are the minority in an area that are not Zionist. The Jews over there, that are real practicing Jews, they don't agree with the Zionists. So Zionism is an ideology for expansionism, for military power, for economic power, for the land, for the natural resources, right? And it's the same way with the European coming to Africa. It's the same thing with the European coming to the indigenous people. They didn't enslave them because of their complexion and their phenotype and their language and their religion. They did it because, oh, you indigenous people, you got some gold. Wow, look at this. You're walking around with gold in your nose. You're not even putting the gold to use. Look how beautiful this land is. Look how rich the soil is. Like Haiti has, what is it, $90 billion worth of gold? Haiti has, what's it, lithium? The shit that like NASA uses for technology. There's natural resources. So the race thing is a justification to the economic exploitation. So,
say that again now. I don't think the people in the back heard you.
Race is a justification for economic exploitation. So race is fiction, but racism is real. Race is fiction, racism is real. There is no Chinese race. There is no this colored race. There is no, this is the mulatto race. It's human beings, and you have ethnicities and you have nationalities. But what can we do? Okay, so put yourself in the shoes of the oppressor. Put yourself in the shoes of the people that want to gain. They want to gain this for the Vatican. They want to gain this for their kings and queens, right? For the Spanish Empire, for the Portuguese Empire, for the English Empire, for all these different empires, right? Well, let's see. They don't have the technology we have, so they're not as sophisticated and intelligent as we are. They don't speak the chosen language. So there's always this language thing, right? And the language thing is still prevalent today. If people come here and they're like, "Oh, you don't speak English, get out of here," what? It becomes a superiority thing. It becomes a superiority thing amongst so-called Latinos. If you have the ear, you can hear that how a Cuban speaks Spanish versus a Dominican versus a Mexican versus a Spaniard versus a Chilean versus an Argentinian is different. And amongst those groups, they will think that their language is superior. The way they speak it is superior. And the Spaniards looking at them saying, this is our language. And you guys are speaking a bastardized version of Spanish. You're not speaking pure Spanish, right? So language, I mean, look, Dr. Collins said it very good. Have you forgotten that once we were brought here, we robbed of our names, we loved our religion, our culture, our God, and many of us, by the way we act, we even lost our minds, right? So all those things that were taken to make people feel inferior, and it had to be replaced with a white Jesus. It had to be replaced with their language, because your language isn't good enough. Your God isn't good enough. Your names are not good enough. So it wasn't just Africans that came to North America they take on the last name Thompson or Johnson. So when you hear Jimenez and Hernandez and Perez and Cortez and Toledo, those are slave names. Those weren't the names of the people who lived there. That was the dominant language due to who was colonizing and oppressing. So when you strip people of something to make them feel inferior, and then you have to come up with stupid shit like the curse of Ham, right? And you got to come up with God is white. So therefore, if God is white and he's omnipotent and never present and the creator of all things that exist. So if this is what God is, then what the fuck are you? Why don't you look like that? So because you're not chosen. You're not holy. You're not, you guys are savages. Or it's all justification. Oh, you have a vagina. You bleed. We don't bleed. You're not as good. You're less than us. You are an item. You're there to spread your legs, cook and clean, and shut your mouth. That's the sexism. That's that machismo. So, and you know, all of that are the justifications for the economics. So economic classism, if you talk capitalism, if you can, I'm not able to on my phone, or like when we're on here, but if you can look up the word capitalism, and I know there's people who's going to disagree, and that's fine. When you look up the word capitalism and you look up when capitalism was started, and you look at what capitalism came from, feudalism, and you say to yourself, well, if capitalism comes from feudalism and capitalism came about this time, this is when it's defined, and this is the definition, then ask yourself in the definition, what was the means of trade? Who was the ones who owned the private owners? It was your colonizers, it was your slave masters, and the trade was human bodies to produce cotton and indigo and tobacco and sugarcane so they can make money. That's all it is. But people want to clean it up and say, well, that's predatory capitalism. That's not, I don't practice capitalism like that. I want to make money. That's fine. But this is what it comes from. You just cleaning it up, but it's this is just what it is.
Right. It's the raw and unfiltered. Like the actual capitalism is like raw, like unfiltered. You know what I mean? See, the capitalism that we're dealing with is like the watered down version of it, but it comes out of that what they call direct capitalism.
And the capitalism.
And I'm not saying this to be like racism. No, racism is fucking real. It's very real. It's the thing of race that's not real, but this racism. Now, I will say this. I would say theoretically racism is not real because they're basing this off of a social construct that doesn't exist called race. However, because they do things that is racist and that indoctrinates people and that scares people, then people began to accept that and people began to emulate that. And I think that racism can be done by anybody. Now, I don't think when you look, for example, and I'm not saying this by no means to offend anybody, right? I understand, like, I'm the outsider here. But I enjoy these conversations because, unfortunately, especially online in the so-called Latino community, there's no conversations like this. So I enjoy coming to these things because I see the commonality and the connection between the plight of Africans in America and the plight of Africans throughout the diaspora and the plight of indigenous people throughout the diaspora. There would be no African Holocaust if there was no Inquisitions. Because when the indigenous people was like, oh, we're done, like there's no use for them. What are we gonna do? I have an idea. We'll capture those Africans and bring them over here. It's free labor. And so there's a connection. So it's like, what Africans in this country have gone through. I think that any other ethnic group of people, very much so, should be thankful for what Africans in this country went through because of the civil rights, because of the Black Power, all that shit did a lot for other groups of people. And I think that other groups of people benefit more from it than Africans in this country. And this is just my personal belief. So this isn't a fact, but I think that it's done like that. And I think that the reason why Black people in this country are undermined is the same way it is in other places, because Black people were the bottom of the totem pole in their caste system. Black people were used for the purposes to make money. Black people were used to make people laugh. These are the oppressors. Like you had to play the fiddle. You had to dance. You got some beautiful women. It was always something to exploit them. It's property. So why would you, in the shoes of somebody with this quote unquote power, why would you want to lose total control of that property that you have enjoyed and benefited and reaped off of for so long, and you continue to benefit and reap off of to this day? So why would they do it? And I just think that that's what it is. And I think that once a black person in this country, if they get a little too big for their britches financially, there is a dog leash and it's going to be snatched back. You're not going to get too big. You're not going to get too influential and too powerful. We're going to give you a little, we're going to give you some breadcrumbs. Yeah, you might get $1 billion. There's your breadcrumbs, but you can't get too big. You got to, the people have to be controlled, but like, but classism, I used to believe a long time ago. I used to believe the white man was the devil. I used to believe that it was about race. And when I got to college, and my professor I had for African studies, he was a graduate from Howard in the 70s. His name was Professor Colville. And he started his class off every day. He would say it was never about race. It was all about economic classism. And I was ready to fucking go crazy on this dude. I'm like, what are you talking about? So he educated me. He educated the class, and then he would go around the class and he did this for a month. He would say, "What's your race?" And he would go to everybody. So then you would hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm Irish," or "No, I'm Turkish," or I'm African American, or "No, I'm Hispanic," or "No, I'm Puerto Rican," whatever. And how he broke that down was, no, you're human beings. That's the race, but you have ethnicities and nationalities. And it changed my whole perspective on shit. Because I mean, like, I used to be, and I still like Khalid Muhammad a lot, but I was like super Khalid. And there, there's things I disagree with him on, but there's a lot of, his passion, the fire he had, I think it was necessary at that time. I have my disagreements, but like, I definitely would say classism is crucially important. And I don't want to talk too much. I've been talking too much, but I'll just say this. If you look up right now, who voted in this country first? Black men or white women?
Who voted?
Yep. Black men voted before white women.
Oh, voted. Oh, yeah.
Right? So now comes the question of race. Now comes the question of sex. Now comes the question of classism. Why was it that black men in this country could vote before white women? So you look at these things, you look at the Panther Party, then the Young Lords, and the AIM, the American Indian Movement, and the Chicano Movement, and the Young Patriots. Why was it that J. Edgar Hoover his dick was so hard to go at those groups? Because those groups were saying it's not about race. But if you who you are, then power to your people and power to these people and have the empowerment of your people, but it's power for and power to all the people. But all of this shit is a class struggle. And all this shit right here is used so people won't see the bigger picture. Why, again, if you were in the position in the United States, why in the fuck would you want the people to be organized, unified, and mobilized, and they seeing that this shit is nothing but one big fucking Ponzi scheme that's been going on since 1776 or 1609? Why would you want the people to see that? You would want to do your best to divide, conquer, and control the people. That's all it is, man. It's big. It's a big game of chess. Like Garvey. I've heard and seen people say, "Oh, fuck Latinos," for example, right? And they love Garvey. Well, Garvey was in support of Campos. Campo, the Puerto Rican nationalists.
Mhm.
Garvey was in support of the Irish that were wanting to liberate themselves from the English. So when
Mhm.
you look at different people in history, there was a connection where what the people saw was, yes, their people's going through something. I had to fight for my people, but there's something going on over here, and that what's going over here is connected to this here and is connected back to me.
Oh yeah, Malcolm X. He also was saying he also compared the French Revolution, and the American Revolution, to our plight over here in America, like going against the white power structure. He was saying that in order to a revolution is all about land. It's all about that's the basis of independence. And if we want any type of revolution, we gotta be about land, and it's gotta be about acquiring the resources and actually going after those that actually have the land. He said a revolution is bloody. No revolution is non-violent. I mean, Malcolm, it's all about land. It's all about economics. I mean, yeah, race is a social construct that was actually created by, Johann Blumenbach and Carl Linnaeus had came up with the various classifications of race, but at the same time we gotta keep in mind that yeah, racism is real. I mean, racism and classism actually go hand in hand. I mean, you really can't have one without the other. So when you talk about class, I mean, the lower class whites are always gonna have the backing of the white elite. I mean, yeah, they might exploit them. I mean, but they not really as oppressed as the blacks over here in America.
Mhm.
I want to address this comment. This brother put Malcolm was a black nationalist, not a black classist. No one ever made the argument that Malcolm was a black classist. Yes, he was a black nationalist. He made it known that he was a black nationalist, but he also studied the works of others, who were who had who was fighting for revolution and who was fighting against oppression. So, but he never diminished himself as a black nationalist. He never took away or looked away from what black people was going through in America. He just happened to study different things. So, um, nowhere was it stated that he was a black classist or anything like that. No,
But
I
but
mean,
Malcolm X also said, "Show me a capitalist, and I'll show you a bloodsucker too." Malcolm X also talked about capital. He did put down capitalism and did talk about socialism being um more beneficial to to the people as far as economic systems are concerned. I mean, he said that in his Malcolm X speaks book. So Malcolm X was analyzing like the downfalls of capitalism. I mean, he might not have been like a black socialist and none of that, but he did identify with the various socialist like countries like Cuba
right.
um and other countries that basically adopted this socialist paradigm.
Exactly. So, I don't know why that comment was made, but I just had to address that. But continue, brother John.
Yeah, like I said, like going back to the yeah, capitalism and racism. I mean, even Marcus Garvey had himself had basically called out. He said that capitalism was like it was for the advancement of the people, but he did like put limits on how greedy these capitalists can be. But he also said these black capitalists were very ruthless and basically try to exploit you the same way as the white capitalists. I mean, H. Rat Brown had said that too. So it is classism along with racism as
Mhm.
far as why there's so much inequality in this world.
Yeah, you can't. You
Right.
can't. Capitalism can't operate without racism. It can't, because
And
that's what's used. I'm telling you, that's what they use to make their bread. It's crazy.
And you're right, exactly. I mean, because it, like you said, without racism or sexism, there will be no capitalism. Without slavery, there will be no capitalism. Period. You know what I'm saying? I mean, whether we want to hear it or not. I mean, and you can find information in this book right here by Dr. Eric Williams. He lays it out very well. Capitalism and slavery. He goes into it. He lays it out very well. He breaks it down. So, you know
And
what I'm
then
saying? I mean,
another thing, people put talking about slaveries in the past and all that. I mean, but people don't realize the 13th Amendment basically legalized slavery as a punishment for a crime with books like Slavery by Another Name, where it talks about that blacks were actually getting put into concentrate, almost like on plantation, they were being leased out to as convicts to perform slave labor if they got charged with little petty crimes like vacancy or not having a job and so forth. And they were based in some. I was reading also where they were actually coerced into performing slave labor by the white men that was saying that they would pay off they would pay their court fees and so forth. And they basically coerced them and tricked them into signing a document where they had them performing slave labor for months, even years. And like in the conditions of those like those cabins and stuff that they were sleeping in were very dirty and very deplorable conditions to where some of them had actually died performing slave labor. So for that notion that slavery was over after 1865. I mean, no, I mean, 13th Amendment basically has a loophole where it says that neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for crime shall exist. And you look at the prison system today, the caste system of slavery, it hasn't really been eradicated. Like Michelle Alexander said in her book, The New Jim Crow, she said that basically it's been redesigned. So
Yep.
now it's basically the prison system that's really slavery.
And then look what they're doing. Like I've never been to prison, but I've been to jail, and it's divided. Like I didn't experience that dividing thing. What the only thing I experienced was divided based on your gang affiliation or
mm-hmm,
what you like the gang I was in once upon a time.
mm-hmm,
Some of the colors was what bloods were using up north, so they
mm-hmm,
put me in a blood population, right? But in prison, black is with the black and white is with the white and Mexicans with the Mexican, and then this
mm-hmm,
group is with this group. And why? Why? And then that train of thinking, right? Because
mm-hmm,
people, it's unfortunate our youth want to emulate prisoners, people in prison, that whole thing, right? And it comes out on the streets. And then you got to think about the people that's locked up and they're divided on this thing of you're this and you're this and you're this, right? And they're part of a street organization, and then that comes out into the streets within the street organization. It's it's just a conundrum of bullshit, and
you,
and it's just this is their strategy. Like the, all like I've met people from where were they from? Sierra Leone, right?
mm-hmm.
I one time this guy from Sierra Leone told me he was a Frenchman.
You
Yeah,
said somebody from Sierra told you they were Frenchmen.
yeah. He said he was a Frenchman, right? Because he speaks French. But
Mm-hmm.
does that make you a Frenchman? It's like it's the thing when say this person's Spanish or these are Spanish. They're not. What are you talking about? They speak Spanish, but that doesn't make them Spanish. That a
Mm-hmm.
Haitian speaks French. Does that make them French? A Haitian can speak Spanish. Does that make them Spanish? You know what I mean?
No.
Like, or, but you don't see in this country. I've never seen a black person in this country ever say that they are an Englishman. Never seen that. I never heard it. Never seen that.
Nah, no,
Never,
but
never. You know what I'm
I
saying? But
mean, but we'll say, we're Americans, which I mean, technically, that's what we'll be considered as because we're born here,
yeah.
right? But there's those who would just say, "I'm just American."
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Greg Carr said this, and I'm glad that he brought this up. He said, "To be an American means to be white." He brought this up, and I had to sit back and I thought about I processed that. I said, you know what? He has a point. So when somebody's saying that I'm just an American, it's almost equivalent to saying I'm white, but you're not really saying you're white. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you may not mean that, but that's basically what you're saying. You're you're tying yourself down to to being Western. So like you hear black people say I'm Black American because they got away from identify as being African.
Mm-hmm.
So they have become accustomed to identify as Black America or just American.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I personally don't like I was born in this country, but and my passport, says American. I don't
Yeah.
agree. I don't agree to that. I didn't agree. I'm not Italian. That's how I look. I'm not Italian. Like you're calling yourself. They intentionally called America or the Americas after Americo Vespucci, an Italian map maker traveler. And I mean, some people may say that's stupid. What does that mean? Who cares? This is where I'm at. But I mean, for me, it matters to me because it's a
Yeah.
thing of if you're saying that you want to, if you're anti-colonialism,
Hmm.
I think a start would be identifying yourself by that which was not put in place by a colonist. It's like even Latino. I take issue with those. I take issue with all those. I don't care if it's Afro Latino, Afro Latina dad, Latin,
Well,
all of them.
yeah.
I take issue. I'm not Central Italian. That's what Latino, Latina, comes from Latin. That comes from Central Italy. And I would even go as far to say that the Spanish and Portuguese aren't Latinos. They're not Central Italians. That was something that became imposed on them. Or Hispanic. That's Spain. That's Spain. Hispania. That's Spain. So people calling themselves Hispanic is just like, but you're from Uruguay. You speak
Hmm.
Spanish, but you're not a Spaniard. So why are you calling yourself Hispanic or Latinx? It's genderless. What do you mean it's genderless? Everybody has a gender, and the language is a gender-based language. It's masculine and feminine. So it's like
Hmm.
when I see those things, I look
Hmm.
at African American, Afro American, FBA, ADOS,
Hmm.
or no, I'm of this tribe of the 12 tribe chart, or no, I'm a Moor, or I'm a new whatever it is.
Hmm.
It's like, come on, like this is just, it's I look at that and say that's the commonality between so-called Latinos and Africans in this country. Is the thing that the people are fucking confused, calling themselves all types of shit, and
Yeah.
it doesn't make a bit of sense. And then when you have the conversation, it's because, well, this is what it is, or this is just, and it's just like, okay, but this is what this word means. This is
Hmm.
what it's implying, and then some people don't care. Some people think you're going down the rabbit hole. Some people think that you're trying to be too woke, or some people think that it's frivolous, and if I don't identify with this, what is this going to do for me? How is this going to make my life better? There's that argument, but it's like at the same time, you look at many, probably I'd say everybody on this planet, everybody has an appreciation for their culture and history of who they were and where they came from and what their culture is. And But when it comes, what I notice is when it comes particularly to Africans in this country and
Mm-hmm.
Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, the people don't care. They don't care, And the ones that do care, you looked at as a weirdo. You looked at as like, oh, you think you're Malcolm X, or you're trying to. No, this is just what the fuck it is. Like, I don't get it. First, I don't get it. I'm
Yeah.
46 years old, and I've been thinking this way since I was 12 years old. Like, it's I don't know. It's what was it before 1815 in this country? Africans were called Africans in this country,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, you know, and then I guess some people would even argue it, even if you use the term African, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's always a tit for tat, and it's an ongoing thing, and I just say that whatever makes you comfortable, whatever floats your boat, But I don't like that
I
term.
mean, and all these names, I mean, even with the morals, and they talking, we using the word black, like that's another one that really irritates me and annoys me because talking about blacks is like the law ditch in the law dictionary, meaning that you're dead and all this, and I'm like, I mean, we can go back to ancient Kemet where blacks were, where we were actually called black. I mean, which actually refer to the black people there. I mean, but we get caught up in so many divisions where it's really um conflicting with us actually coming together and unifying. And my thing is like, I mean, like you were saying, we get so caught up in um not being concerned, being very indifferent to what the plight of black people, I mean, Latinos as well. I mean, but the plight of black people, I mean, because a lot of us have been brainwashed with capitalism to the point where if you're not really about money, we value things based on like money. Like we think that we actually are capitalists because we have lots of money. But you're not a capitalist if you don't control the means of production. I mean, Karl Marx and Frederick Engels had said that. I mean, particularly Karl Marx, but basically, if you don't control the means of production, you're not a capitalist. You actually a lackey of a capitalist, like Kwame Ture had said. You don't really control no means of production. So the thing of a black capitalist is basically oxymoronic.
Yeah. I just want to say something. I want to go back to like what Cuban was saying earlier when he was talking about the politics of prison as far as like gangs is concerned and how they bring it out into the street, the gang ideology into the streets or whatnot. Um, Now, do you think that plays a part into why there is different beefs, if you want to put it like that, that's going on from people from different side of town? Like, let's say for example, you got somebody from the south side of this town going have beefing with somebody on the west side of this town because of the fact that they're and they beefing because of their politics. Do you think because of the gang politics in prison plays a factor into the street politics, into why there's so many beef with individuals from various parts of towns in the
Some
city?
some of it. I won't say all of it because some of it is like some of it exists prior to like a street organization getting the the membership and the growth of it. Um, I mean, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, Tiffany, but a lot of times it's about women. It's about a woman, or it's about some.
Hmm. Okay, I think he gonna come back in. What you say, Dejan?
Well, I think that yeah, it could be about sometimes the street politics, gang politics from jail can actually go into the streets, but most of them fighting over territory, most of them fighting over resources. I mean, But we talk about gangs. I mean, we gotta look at the CIA. We gotta look at the FBI. We gotta look at law enforcement. I mean, we talk about gangs like that. That's some of the biggest gangs out there. So, um, those groups that actually fight over resources. That I mean, the lack of resources actually that they actually set up is I just think it really it deviates away from the systematic deprivation that the people are actually going through based on the lack of resources. But it does play it somewhat comes from prison and some of it doesn't, you know. It just the fighting over trying the acquisition of resources and so forth. But
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I mean, I believe that, when it comes to that whole thing, again, it goes back to the imitation of the higher power, right?
mhm,
So you have individuals or people that come from various side of towns that competing and beefing with each other because they want to be like the very same system that has pretty much oppressed them. And so what you'll find in common, right, when it comes to gangs and it comes down to mafias, they imitate the government. So I'm gonna bring up something about Machiavelli, okay? Niccolo Machiavelli, right? He written a book called The Prince, and I have that book. So basically, in the book, if you read it, you would think it's describing the gangs. You'll think it's describing mafias, but it's describing the government and how the system been structured. So these gangs, right, or these individuals that have like, cartels or whatnot that's running the streets, you know what I'm saying? They get these influence from, reading materials like this, from Machiavelli, and then, reading up stories about General Patton. So now you're taking that politics from what you learned from General Patton, from Machiavelli, and you bringing it to the streets, you know what I'm saying, to have control, to have power over the areas that you're in, which now you're creating. It creates the wars between those side towns. So you got somebody, that might be from the east side of this town saying, well, we don't deal with them folks over there on the west side because the west side over here, they act like, saying they our ops, they our enemy over there. They have done X, Y, and Z. And then X, Y, and Z from the west side might say, no, we don't deal with the east side because east side done did this and done did that. And they not really about that. They're really just bougie. They just really this, they, and other. Yeah, yeah. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, what's y'all thought on that?
Say that. Say that again. Condense it.
Can you hear, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh,
Like
okay.
say.
So
I'm a little slow right now. I apologize.
it's all good. Okay, so what I was saying about the east side and the west side, what I was saying about the size of town.
Yeah, since the thing once you started with Machiavelli.
Okay, so what I was saying is like the influence of Machiavelli, right? His book called The Prince. If people read the book itself describes the government, the government during that time period, in his time period, which was the medieval time period,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you read it, you're thinking it's describing mafias and gangs, but it's describing the government system. And then I was bringing up about General Patton because General Patton is very much admired for his work in the United States military and how he structured and organized things, right? So, those ideas that these guys had, it's carried on through these mafias, through these gangs, or through the drug cartels. and they bring the politics on the streets. So now, due to the politics on the street, it creates the wars, right? The beefs of various sides of town. So you got this side of town over here that's not dealing with that side of town over there because they feel like this side of town not really genuine and they really not about that life. All they doing is trying to claim something that they really not, whatever the case may be. And then this side of town feel like, nah, that side of town over there is not genuine. They done did this, they done did X, Y, and Z, they done destroyed uh our community or our area, etc. And it's a conflict there. So I was just pretty much that's basically pretty much what I was saying regarding today. So I just wanted to see what y'all input was.
So I would say that I mean, like, the government is a gang.
Mm-hmm.
The police is a gang. Um, or if you want to be nice, street organization. But like, it's what we call, like, let's just say your street gangs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it typically always comes about due to some form of oppression, whether it's oppression
Mm-hmm.
from the police or it's oppression that they're getting from another ethnic group, or some type of oppression they're getting from, could be their own, in their area, and they're like, yo, I'm not fucking with these people. We're gonna start our own shit. We don't like you were saying, the blocks and the different sides of town and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think sometimes street organization gangs, there's cases in which it was a positive thing in its origin, and then it kind of just went left field. And I think you got pockets of people in them. Like, I've met specifically, I've met Crips. That's really what I could think of. I've met Crips that really adhere to their history. Like, they're not on no, I'm just gonna fight or kill somebody because they wear red, or because this guy wears gold and black, he's a king or a nieta, I'm gonna go at him, or this person over here. Like, they, if they get aggressive, is because they were aggressed upon. You know what I mean? So, but I would say, I mean, even the police was created to they were created from slave masters that needed some guys to capture runaway Africans, and that's how the police came about. And that came about, though the slave master wasn't being oppressed, but there was oppression being done, and it did come about due to oppression, and it came out to further oppress and for people to further be exploited and capitalized off of. And then you look at you mentioned earlier, the prison industrial complex system. That's all it is. It's like, if there's no cell filled, there's no beds occupied, we're not making money. You go to a nursing home. If the nursing home has empty rooms and no beds filled, they are not making money. So they got to make money. So we need people. We got to get somebody in here, to make our money. So I think it's a thing of rebellion, or like you talked about the mafia, like even them. Like, I think sometimes you got people that's just like, yo, fuck that. These guys, because they got an office, because they got a little army, and they got some documents that govern people. They're doing a whole bunch of fucked up shit, and they're making money, and I want to make money. So let's get a bunch of people together, and let's start embezzling, and let's start frauding, and let's start kidnapping, and let's start extorting, and let's start doing this. And if they come to us, well, we're going to strong arm, and we're going to, um, so like in the case of mafia, I look at the Italian mafia is that's why they came about. Like, they they um they didn't want to be exploited, So what they did was they wanted to exploit, and they ended up exploiting their own people. And they as long as they ate good and lived good, um, I think it's all kind of interconnected.
Mm,
I definitely think there's connections.
mm. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah. Oh no, you good, you good. Yeah. And then earlier the topic about women being like the reason for certain things, certain
Oh,
activities. Well, no, and I agree because let's look at it symbolically speaking. When you conquer women, right, you're conquering the future nation. And why do I say that? When you conquer women, you conquering a future nation. That means because women, our due to our reproductive system, right, and due to what we're here for, with our reproductive system, the purpose is for us to give birth to humanity, correct?
mm,
So by us giving birth to humanity, we're giving birth to a nation. We're giving birth to a group of people. We're giving birth to a bloodline. So when you have control of women, particularly, right, you can control the nation. You can control the bloodline.
hmm
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
You can conquer. And then, there's the argument, well, it's the biology that men tend to be very territorial,
Mm,
biologically speaking, meaning that, they want a territory, they want a land, so they gonna claim it, right? They gonna claim something as their territory. Even if it involves a woman, that's their territory. So if somebody, like say, if some outsider come and conquer women, or you know take control of the women, again, you controlling the nation that comes out of her. You controlling the future nation. So you either prevent the future nation from happening, or you trying to create the nation of your own by taking various group of women and bringing them into your environment, bring them into your circle, so you can have your own nation or your own bloodline, and you want to be able to preserve that bloodline. You want to be able to preserve that lineage, right? I mean, that is just something I was thinking about, and something I just want to put out there.
mm.
I don't know if it really makes sense what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying, but when I was making reference to women was like say beefs, like this guy is kicking it to some female, and the other guy used to date her and has feelings for her, you know,
Hmm.
or someone's having sex with so and so, and so I would say that would be territorial. Definitely, that would be a territorial thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fighting or killing each other over the woman. But I forgot. I don't recall what I was saying prior to that, but that was the kind of like the point I was trying to make out of that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Dejan, you got anything you
Yeah,
want to say?
yeah, but but let me ask the question to both of you. I'm gonna propose a question because I heard Dr. Amos Wilson said in his book Black on Black Violence. So we talking about gangs. Do y'all both really think that gangs can actually be revolutionary, like serve a revolutionary purpose, or do y'all really think that gangs are really like counter revolutionaries as far as like basically being they basically doing the bid of the white power structure? Or do you think they can actually be turned and transformed into a revolutionary force against the white power structure?
Hmm.
I personally think all three of what you said. The first one, when you said that they could be revolutionary, and then the second thing that in regards to fueling the white power structure system, right? And then the last point, you saying that could they transition to being revolutionary, right? So
Hmm.
I'll give you some examples. Crips. Crips stands for Community Revolution in Progress.
Yeah.
They were inspired by Panthers. Somewhere along the line, things went left, right? Somewhere along the line with Bloods, things went left. Um, the Ghetto Brothers, which was a gang out of the Bronx, which was an all Puerto Rican gang, right? They they were inspired by the Panther Party and the Young Lords.
Mm.
When an individual named Black Benji was killed in the Bronx, this is where they had the big meeting on Hoe Avenue with all the gangs, the Black Spades and the Ghetto Brothers and the Savage Nomads and the Savage Skulls and the White Pearls and all these different groups.
Mm.
Now, was there peace, an absolute peace and utopia amongst them and in the streets? No. But a lot of them changed their ways and a lot of them began to operate differently
Mm.
because of political education.
Mm.
Then you have other groups that it's just bananas with them. It's like, yo, you are really detrimental to your own people. You're detrimental to everybody else in society. Like, what service? What do you serve here other than your own little interest? You know. Um, so I think it could be a combination. I mean, like the gang I was in, once upon a time, I thought that it was supposed to unify blacks and Latinos against the police state and capitalism, white supremacy, and that hip hop was the means of vehicle to do these things, right? To help liberate your people and and do positive things and all this shit. Well, the guy who founded that is a fucking pedophile. It was a
I know
pedophile
what you're
then.
talking about, the black spades.
Uh-huh.
You talking about the black spades?
Mm. Zulu Nation.
We're
Oh,
talking about
Google Nation.
Africa Bamboo.
Oh,
Yeah. So
okay.
like that was the gang I was in. It's this shit's a gang code, right? But once upon a time, I believed in its propaganda. Once I found out that guy's a pedophile, that totally altered my whole perspective. Now I look at it as he created what he created so he could molest kids. It wasn't about black and brown people. It wasn't about a police state. It wasn't about capitalism, white supremacy. It wasn't about unifying all of humanity and using hip hop as a means to do so. It wasn't about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
And to touch on what you just said, because there's a lot of people that be rapping like they revolutionaries, rapping like they are in the struggle. But when you look at their political understanding, like Talib Kweli, for an example,
oh God.
when you look at his politics, it is completely terrible.
Mhm.
Like he's a Democratic shield. He basically when it comes to the Democratic Party, he basically just sucks up to them, and his politics are very like almost synonymous to a white liberal. So just because they actually spitting like they revolutionary, spitting like they in the struggle, don't necessarily mean that their politics match what they saying in their lyrics. We have to be very careful when it comes to actually taking what like a person's rap persona and actually putting it to who they actually are as a person and what their politics consist of. And that's where the political education actually comes into play. So you can actually distinguish between those who are actually authentic with it and those that actually this is part of their persona, what they trying to put like what they basically trying to they putting on a facade, what they trying to project out to the world when their politics don't even match it.
Yeah, and I've been seeing that Tyreek. I mean, yeah, Talib. What's his name? Talib Kweli been going at it with people, cussing folks out, all
Hmm.
kind of stuff. Like even if they, come to him respectfully. I mean, he just going hell. I'm like, damn, bro, what the hell wrong with you? I done seen his tweets. I'm like, damn, why is he Why is he doing that? I mean, you supposed to, these are the very same people that supported your music, you know what I'm saying, support what you was speaking on, but you going extra hard on them. So in a sense, he has this ghetto bourgeoisie mentality. By him having this ghetto bourgeoisie mentality, right, that makes me question him like, okay, was you always like really about revolutionizing or stand on the foundation for the people, or was this just a front the whole time?
Mm.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you never know. Like his outlook could have changed. You know what I
yeah.
mean? But I agree with you guys. You know, I totally agree with you guys. It's kind of disappointing. You know, like he got me and him kind of got into a little back and forth on Instagram, and I forget what he said on his post, but I just said to him, "How come you don't say anything about Africa Bambaataa?" And he he was telling me that I was deflecting from the post, and I'm like, no, because I said I have a question. Like, dude, you act like I got your phone number, or I know where you live, and I can come over and we can smoke a blunt and have this conversation. Like, this Instagram, like this is how I'm reaching out to you. So I have a question. But you know, from shit that you hear uh rappers say,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on things politically, socially, that's why they just, Malcolm talked about the entertainers, the celebrities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I leave it. I mean, it's like KRS One used to be my favorite rapper, right? I
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you ask me my honest opinion, I think he has the total MC package, pause, of what an MC is. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I just don't listen to him no more because of his position on Bambaataa. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I just refuse to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says some wacky shit. You know, he's into that abo shit. He's into a lot of weird shit.
For real?
Oh yeah, like just he's an entertainer. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I
I
mean,
didn't know
not
you was into that elbow stuff.
and not to mention he made a song called 13 and Good too, talking about
Oh yeah,
underage girls. I mean, and people like and he basically is making excuses for Africa Bambaataa, like basically saying what is that? How is that relevant to hip hop? Africa Bambaataa molesting boys,
yeah.
and
Now,
like
see,
so
I was disappointed when he said that. I was like, bruh, really? Really?
I
Because,
mean,
he was looked up as he was looked at as a pioneer of hip hop.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So in a way, that does bring about bad representation,
yeah,
because you are well respected in the community.
I
And
mean
for
not
people to find out that you were doing these things, I mean, yeah, it's gonna raise red flags. What was you saying? I'm
and
sorry.
not only him but also Chuck D, a Public Enemy. He disappointed me as well. I mean
What
because
he do?
he's also he was caping for Bernie Sanders and caping for the Democratic Party too. But I mean, but Chuck D was talking like, fight the power and basically saying that neither the elephant or the donkey represents is one of his songs he made in the past with Public Enemy, but he panders to the Democratic Party as well. So like it goes back to my point of just because they represent positivity and represent the community and the people in their songs don't necessarily mean that their political message is the same as far as who they are as a person. We have to like learn how to distinguish between their persona and distinguish between who they are.
yeah. I mean, Talib got that line from that song with Dead President. It's called Sharpshooters.
Yeah,
You listen to it, you're like, oh, this dude, he's down. Like, what he said, the white man came to Africa with rifles and Bibles, started changing the name of the people and their titles. You know, like sometimes shit don't go together, with lyrics versus their views. Sometimes, it's just a thing that they got good lyrics, and that's as far as it goes.
Mm.
I,
Yeah.
but like I said, you never know. I mean, shit. Look at Wu-Tang. Damn near the whole Wu-Tang are Orthodox Muslims now. You
Yeah,
know?
wasn't they 5%ers at one
Yeah,
time?
they were
Yep.
fire. Like RZA. Who was it? RZA and Capadonna and two other maybe they were in Mecca. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just it just goes. I mean, look, Wise Intelligent one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
He released an album. They released an album. I think it was called Poor Poverty. On that album cover is the 5-pointed star of David, and he's talking a lot about Hebrew Israelite in that. He became a Hebrew Israelite at one point in time during as the group was very popular, and he left it. Matter of fact, when I seen him do a performance in Philly one time in West Philly, he had police escort with him coming in and leaving because there was 5%ers in Philly and Trenton, that South Jersey, Philly area that wanted to fuck him up because you left that they took that shit serious like you.
Well, the gods, they take it serious, especially when it comes to the mathematics. Tiffany should know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if he is anymore, but I don't think Killer Priest is ISUPK no more. I don't think he is. I could be wrong, but I don't think he is based on watching his show and guests he's had, his interaction with people, and
Mm-hmm.
some of his songs. Like I don't think he is.
But see, the thing with Killer Priest, he's very open minded.
Yeah.
He's a very open minded person, so he doesn't mind like receiving information, regardless like where he stand on his position. He doesn't mind.
Yeah.
He's a very open minded individual, and I can give him that.
I mean, Chuck D used to be a strong supporter of Farrakhan. The S1Ws, his
Yeah,
security of
Because
the
he
first
was in
book.
NOI, he was in the nation.
yeah.
I
They,
mean, you look at him now and you look at him back, let's say 86, 87, 88, 89.
Mm-hmm.
He don't seem like he's the same part. Like just people change, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's people that don't talk to me, I guess because I'm no longer an anti-white man. Or there's people who won't talk to me because I'm no longer Muslim. So it's like people change, and like the brother I was reading the chat. I'm gonna look into what he said. I want to look more into the subject of gangs and stuff like that because he could be very right what he's saying, but just people change. Like it's like what are you supposed to do? Stay the same to make others happy because you want to be accepted, or if you are sincerely changing because that's the move you think you should make,
Mm-hmm.
that's your business.
Yeah.
That's your
I mean,
business.
but
Yeah.
people become a little more conservative as they get older too, and also because some of them actually get burned out when they don't see no progress being made. And I can
Right.
definitely understand people getting burned out because we've been having these conversations over for years, like 50, 60 years about how to liberate our people, and we still in the same condition that we're in. So certain people get burned out, and they just decide to, well, I'm just gonna go try to chase the bag, or I'm gonna just go back to my regular life. I mean, that's what's happened to the Panthers as well. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
Panthers, after COINTELPRO happened, and
Mm-hmm.
then after the split between Huey and Eldridge Cleveland, then you had Panthers going at each other's heads. One that's with the Huey faction, and one that's with Eldridge faction. I mean, some of them just was confused, so they just went back to living their normal lives. Certain people get burned out when they see division, or they don't see no progress being made in the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Co-
You're right.
COINTEL did a hell of a job, man.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
what's crazy about the COINTEL thing? I did a show and I showed this thing. It was from Democracy Now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That when the Watergate scandal happened with Nixon, right?
Mm-hmm.
There
Mhm.
was a group of white, I guess say like college students or whatever. Um, I think one of them, I don't think all of them, maybe one or two, but they were like Catholic, but they were like very they were Catholics, but like Catholic in the sense like they were like very, they weren't your average your typical Catholic. Like they were very much against injustice type shit, right? So
Mhm.
it's like that whole era of the Panthers and all that, right? So people's minds, were changing on things socially and politically. So one of the people, a white woman, was able to go into the Watergate building due to how she looked. So they're not thinking, oh, this young white woman is coming in the Watergate building. They went in there and took the fucking COINTELPRO files.
Took him hotel for what?
The files. They stole documents. So this is how the documents came into possession of a lot of people, was
Mm.
due to these individual white people.
Mm. Boy, they were bold as hell.
Yeah. So it's you know my philosophy I live by is not everybody who looks like you is your brother, and not everybody looks like you is your enemy. Right? And it's that COINTEL thing. COINTEL um, used people who look like a particular people and
Mhm.
infiltrated the group, and it's the same thing that's even done in gangs. You know,
Mhm.
there's things that's done. There's already fucked up shit going on in a gang, right? But then this just adds more fuel to the fire. This causes
Mhm.
more complications, you know. And it's just COINTELPRO is insane. Like I don't know if you guys ever go like on the FBI or the CIA website. You can look,
Mm-mm.
or the Freedom of Information. That shit is bananas. That's
Mm.
documented. Just the different things that's documented on so many different. And like I look at that shit and I'm just like, this is why I don't vote. This is why I don't trust this government. Like how
Yeah.
the fuck how the hell am I gonna trust a government that did all these atrocities, right? So then you'll have people say, "Oh, well, that's it's better here than other places," or if you don't like it, leave, or look at, or I'm here, so I'm not in fucking Guam and I'm not in Sweden. I'm here in America and I'm under this government. So this is what I'm looking at. If I was in those countries, I'd be looking at those things too. But this is what it is, and I can't grasp how anybody just really has faith in this system, that they really think there's some type of change, a policy, and they'll tell you it's not gonna happen tonight. It can happen in your great grandchildren's life. Like I just don't get it, yo. I don't understand this. There's just too much shit to put all your eggs in one basket, and then you're always limited to a donkey and an elephant.
Yeah.
Like you say, Jill, let's just take Jill Stein. Let's just take Dr. Cornel West, right,
Mhm.
or whoever. Oh, of course they're not gonna win because it's an image. It's big corporations that have an interest. What what big massive corporation would have an interest in somebody running for the president and saying we should do away with fuel and go electric, or we should uh, um, release people from the prison industrial complex system, or this or that. There's nothing that they're gaining from that. So why would they? Why it's I just it's this shit's fucking crazy. It's above my pay grade. This shit it's just nuts. I just don't. I don't.
I mean, like just going back to your point about them sending people that look like you into your organization to infiltrate. I mean, not only was J. Edgar Hoover sending in people, and the FBI was infiltrating the Black Panther Party. You know, J. Edgar Hoover basically sabotaged Marcus Garvey's movement too by sending a whole lot of agents.
Yeah,
Um,
those main men that were with him were CIA agents.
Absolutely. Yep, they were agents. One of them had sabotaged one of his ships, and also there was one that actually that helped indict Marcus Garvey on the mail fraud.
Hmm.
So that back then there was even agents that were infiltrating organizations. I mean, R.R. Moulton, even want the second in command of Booker T. Washington, they said he was an army agent as well. So I mean, it
Mm.
goes back to even slavery times when they actually had slaves that would go back and tell the slave owner when the rebellion was about to take place, and that's basically what ended the rebellions of Denmark, Vesey, and Gabriel Prosser. But Gabriel Prosser's rebellion actually ended before it actually started because they actually had snitches that actually go back and tell the slave owner the slaves' plan to escape and to liberate all the other slaves. So that's where all that stems from. So yeah, yeah, of course the white power structure they gonna have people that look like you that's gonna talk like you and try to act as if they revolutionaries like you, but they actually doing the bid of the white power structure. So that I mean that's why I say that you should before you like include anybody, recruit anybody to any organization, you got to actually screen them. You got to actually see whether or not they have any type of pig tendencies. Make sure that they you sort of got to vet the people before you actually include them in your organization. Otherwise, they're going to sabotage it.
That's really a fact. Yeah, because you gotta know what people's whole agenda, what their intentions are. You know, you have to really like pay attention to people. And then, as I was saying before, um, there's a concept. You don't follow what somebody told me. You don't follow what's black or what's white. You follow the green. Once you follow the green, that tells you a lot about an individual's personality. Yep. So, all right, y'all. I'm about to go ahead and close out. Anything else y'all want to say before I close it out?
And this is a very fruitful dialogue. I mean, I appreciate you inviting me on to share my thoughts. And yeah, I mean, peace and black power to you, and brown power to both of you.
All right, peace, peace. Brother Cube, you got anything you want to say before I close it out?
Yeah, I want to thank you for letting me on here too, and it was um, I enjoyed being on here, having a very good conversation with both of y'all, and I owe you a show.
Oh yeah. Oh, he on went out again. But yeah, you do owe me a show, brother Cuban. Yes. And I really appreciate you, brother Dejan, for coming on here and giving great information. You always have sources. You always posting no great information on social media or whatnot. I really appreciate that a lot, and I thank you for that. I really do. And I would love to have you on again one day. And Cuban, you always come with political information. I really appreciate you for tuning in and sharing your thoughts as well. Um, so yeah, you do owe me a show. So I'm looking forward to having a show with you. Well, we gonna discuss about that. We gonna have that conversation. But yeah, I appreciate you, brothers. I appreciate
Yeah,
both of y'all. Y'all really doing a phenomenal job for real talk. And this was a phenomenal conversation. I learned so much. It was a healthy dialogue, and we were able to get out so much knowledge out there. And I hope the people enjoyed this dialogue that we had.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah. And shout out to the chat though. I appreciate the chat coming through. Shout out to everybody that tuned
my
in.
my my.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying, brother?
No, I was gonna say I don't know why my call's dropping. No, my call dropped. My fault. I was gonna say. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I hear you.
Okay, I didn't know if it was like choppy or anything. Nah. Well, you had reached out to me a while back, um, to do a show. It has something. I forgot. It has something to do with Cuba. It has something to do with a woman or something. But
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I gotta go back and look up her
just let me
name.
know when you'd like to do that. And
Okay, yeah, I definitely will. I definitely will
yeah,
let you know.
just
Yeah, yeah.
it's not a
It's
yeah,
not
it's not
what?
a just let me know when you're available.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
We can do that definitely. Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. All right then, y'all. I'm about to go ahead and close out. I know it's late on y'all end, so I ain't gonna hold y'all up because y'all could be doing other things. But I appreciate y'all tuning in though.
All right, peace.
All right then. Peace.
peace.